An-Karome is a legendary lost continent on Toril, sometimes referred to as the An-Karome Archipelago. It constitutes the northern portion of the large landmass in the planet's western hemisphere. During the reign of King Zaur Moonflower of Evermeet, Captain Ertheron Nairdre led an expedition aboard a remarkable flying ship. The expedition took them across the vast and varied landscapes of An-Karome, including its fertile lands and numerous islands. Their journey was not without peril. While exploring the icy regions of northern An-Karome, they encountered fierce dragons that forced them to retreat. During their explorations, Captain Nairdre's flying ship crashed on an unnamed island to the north of Fort Flame. It was on this island that they hoped to uncover evidence that would unravel the secrets of the creator races. Reports suggest that northern An-Karome was originally inhabited by the Ayari, an early civilization of avians on Faerun. Captain Nairdre traveled to this lost continent after hearing stories of a legendary seafarer on the Sword Coast, a human who had crossed the perilous trackless sea and brought back great wealth and treasures from An-Karome, named Baldur. Balduron was a sailor, explorer, and trader from the humble village of Lochley, who became known across the Sword Coast for his seafaring exploits. He was nicknamed Baldur by his village, which he liked enough to use for business until it was commonly taken to be his real name. Balduron's journey to An-Karome is a significant part of his legend. He worked with the pirates of the Nilanther Isles to extract great treasures from An-Karome during his expedition. When he returned to the Sword Coast, he donated half of the wealth gained from his adventure to the people of his home village. For a time, he enjoyed his own personal fortune and reputation across the Sword Coast, but soon after, he organized a second expedition to An-Karome and never returned. Using the donated funds, the people of Lochley erected a wall that offered them protection from the dangers of the Sword Coast. The village of Lochley came to be known as the City of Baldur's Gate, in honor of its most legendary inhabitant and his generous act that propelled their settlement to greatness. The people of Baldur's Gate adopted a simple policy to grow their population. The only requirement for citizenship in Baldur's Gate is a couple of silver pieces, making it a diverse and bustling metropolis where humans dominate, but most other races on Faerun have also made their homes. The city's population is believed to have long ago surpassed even that of Waterdeep, though they conduct no census, and despite the improbability of its growth and maintenance, it continues to prosper, a phenomenon sometimes referred to as the Baldur's Gate miracle. Its geography and strategic location along the coast of the Sea of Swords make it a vital hub for trade and travel between the interior lands and other distant locations across the sea. The city itself is nestled between the natural defenses of the Cloakwood to the south and the winding river of Chionthar to the east, which flows into the Sea of Swords. Unlike the northern cliffs, the shoreline of the Cloakwood theoretically allows ships to moor and send small boats to shore for water and supplies. However, only the most desperate mariners dare to face the forest's dangerous wildlife. The Cloakwood is teeming with beasts, monsters, and vicious fae, leading most people to avoid the forest. The creatures inhabiting it include spiders, corrids, homfolds, quicklings, satyrs, sturges, and other strange creatures. The forest is also home to a variety of trees, including hangman trees, beeches, elms, felsoul, and hiexel. The river Chionthar is a major trade route in Faerun, with barges traveling as far inland as Erebor. It runs through the western heartlands, starting high up in the far hills and flowing west into the trackless sea on the Sword Coast. It's navigable by many skiffs, narrow boats, and barges as far upstream as Bear Dusk, where rapids prevent further travel. Beardusk is known to have a method of winching barges through the rapids and getting them to Erebor. The region around Baldur's Gate features a mix of terrains, including forest, rich farmland along the river's floodplains, and more rugged areas to the north and west. The climate is temperate, supporting a diverse range of flora and fauna, which in turn supports a robust agricultural economy in the areas surrounding the city. Baldur's Gate is built on a series of slopes and hills that rise from the shores of the Chionthar River. This geographical feature gives the city its distinctive layout and division into districts, with the oldest and highest part of the city inside the original walls held by the wealthiest and most successful farmers who came to be the landowning patriarchs. The tax revolt in Baldur's Gate was a significant event that led to the formation of the city's current government structure. The revolt was sparked by a conflict between the rich farmers of the walled city and the sea captains of the harbor. The sea captains refused to pay for entering the gate that had been financed by their now missing colleague Baldur. This led to a revolt, during which the captains, utilizing the unrest from the rule of the patriarchs, overthrew the aristocratic landowners. The four eldest among the sea captains were installed as rulers, and they jokingly refer to themselves as dukes. This marked the beginning of the Council of Four, which continues to govern Baldur's Gate. The events of the tax revolt also led to the construction of additional walls around the lower city. This provided the same protection and security to the lower city that the upper city had previously enjoyed. Jeremiah Elton was a self-made mercenary captain who, like many others, made his way to the welcoming and lucrative city of Baldur's Gate. He was a formidable fighter and a man of great influence. He was usually clad for combat, wearing a full suit of polished plate mail and carrying multiple magical items and weapons. Elton was a steadfast and principled man, respected by many Faerunian rulers, both for his tactical genius and because as a mercenary captain, he was familiar with solving practical problems. In the 1330s, Elton founded the Flaming Fist. He saw great potential within Baldur's Gate, a prime center of operations for many mercenary groups, since it was so well connected to the rest of the Sword Coast. He worked hard to recruit various mercenary groups under his banner, forming a single, cohesive group that was stronger than the sum of its parts. Elton had a sincere belief in maintaining the balance of power among the many small kingdoms of Faerun, and as such actively sought to hire out his flaming fists to prevent the formation of empires. Although he had a love of fighting, he usually was able to keep his emotions separated from business. With his newfound political power, Elton leveraged his way into the city's ruling Council of Four. One of his first acts was to hire his own company to establish law and order in the crime-ridden lower city of Baldur's Gate, using government taxes to finance the enterprise. This marked the beginning of the Flaming Fist's role as the city guard and de facto military of Baldur's Gate. The Flaming Fist has prospered as the guardians of the city. The Council of Four pays the group, and the Fist also receives a share of the taxes collected on goods and ships that enter the harbor, and from people who use the Basilisk Gate or travel along Worm's Crossing. Duke Dillard Portier was a member of the Portier family, a wealthy and influential patriarch family of Baldur's Gate. The Porters made their fortune in maritime shipping, investing, and trading. Dillard Porter's residence was an unassuming manor located in the Temples district. He lived alone in his manor, having outlived his 2 wives and 3 sons. He also maintained correspondence with his niece, Liara Porter, who commanded the Flaming Fist outpost on Cholt, known as Fort Beluarian. Grand Duke Valarkin also rose to power as one of the rulers of Baldur's Gate during the mid-15th century. In an ambitious move, he led a coup against his fellow Grand Dukes in an attempt to gain sole rulership over Baldur's Gate. During this tumultuous time, Valarkin was supported by a group of lycanthropes known as the Band of the Red Moon. During his takeover, his group managed to kill 2 members of the Council of Four, but they were unable to slay Grand Duke Porter. They were stopped by the Flaming Fist and the City Watch, who subsequently drove them to the nearby Werewood. After being driven out, it was believed that Balarkin and his supporters began to rebuild the city of Vehlar to reform a nation for werewolves. Porter, the only duke to survive, was named Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate. As Grand Duke, he reformed the Parliament of Peers, granting this once advisory institution more power over the day-to-day business of running the city. However, Porter was known for being easily manipulated and conflict-averse. He ceded the title of Grand Duke to older Ravengard in the late 15th century. During a period of turmoil in Baldur's Gate, he was later assassinated when someone shot an arrow into his chest. Still, the arrangement he established, though occasionally bending under circumstances, has served Baldur's Gate as a governing structure as it has grown into the metropolis of the 15th century, with the Council of Four elected for life and making major decisions. One of them as Grand Duke, who has more power and can break ties and votes. The Parliament of Peers, made up of wealthy merchants and landowners, providing advice, policy proposals, and running day-to-day business, and the Flaming Fists, serving as the city's police and military force, with the highest-ranking officer of this group usually serving as one of the 4 dukes. The upper city of Baldur's Gate is known as the Old Town. It's an exceedingly wealthy region that lies in the north of the city. It is home to the noble patriarch families and is a beautiful and nearly entirely secure region of the port metropolis. The upper city features beautiful manors and promenades exclusive to its region. Unlike the lower city, which slopes downwards towards the river Chianthar, the upper city is largely flat and level, elevated high above the docks and the river's coast. Its wide, raised roads are lined with vibrant colored buildings. The grand buildings and estate houses of the upper city are bustling with the activities of personal retainers, lines of servants, and skilled artisans. The streets outside are well ordered and even at times serene. The Old Town is home to numerous vast mansion homes of the city's patriarch, a few inns, but no public taverns or drinking halls. To maintain a peaceful atmosphere, street music, noisy or disruptive activities, along with businesses or establishments that exude any manner of foul odors, are strictly prohibited. The patriarch families include a wide range of sources of wealth and influence. For example, the Belt family bred and sold horses to the traders of the Sword Coast, while the Bormule family held investments in silver mines and vineyards. The Caldwell family is one of the city's oldest and richest, with its members often serving as dukes. The patriarchs live lives of joy and leisure, dining in their private clubs and personal homes. They dominate the production of various goods within the city, own a number of businesses, and hold investments in other lands. Despite their wealth and influence, many of the patriarchs turn a blind eye to the plight of the less fortunate. Manorborn is the western district of the city's Old Town and houses the wealthiest and oldest of its patriarch families, those who consider themselves the rightful rulers of Balduran's namesake. During the daytime, the upper city is home to a number of different sites: entrepreneurial businessmen tending their investments, merchants setting up their stalls and peddling their wares in the wide, or caravan goods being ported through the streets. The patriarch flutter around the upper city, heading to their various activities. The wide is a district in the upper city of Baldur's Gate, serving as a vast open-air marketplace and plaza. It is a place where Baldurians and outsiders gather to gossip, trade, debate, and discuss the issues of the day. Its reputation as a market and public forum is well known across Faerun. The main attraction of the Wide are the vast number of temporary stalls and booths that are operated by merchants, artisans, fortune tellers, artists, hedge wizards, sages, or whomever has a service or a good to sell within Baldur's Gate. A great variety of commodities are offered within, from the textiles and spices of the Shining South to locally made tools, or silk from far-off foreign lands. These stalls often feature brightly hued awnings that catch the eye. Tables are set up between the stalls, upon which people can sit and take a brief reprieve from the bustle of the crowds. The typically musky smell that permeates Baldur's Gate is masked by the scent of spices, tobacco, and roasted meats that are prepared in the wide. Management of the district is left to its bailiff, a thankless job that was bestowed upon any individual capable and willing enough to coordinate the chaos. They establish which market stalls could be placed in which location, settle disputes, and keep a record of each and every partition of sanctioned market space within the Wide. Regulation of the Wide is enforced by members of the Watch, the most elite guard force in Baldur's Gate. By first light, many servants and liveries are lined up outside the Wide to await the arrival of the merchants. The finest and freshest goods are purchased by those working for the city's wealthiest residents. Young delivery workers use a unique method to transport packages. They attach tall poles to their bodies, and these poles held their packages high above the crowd. This system, known as pole carting, provides them with a considerable degree of protection against theft while they're in the market. At night, the upper city is well lit, both by magically enchanted lamps and the moonlight that illuminates the elevated streets that rise above the fog that rolls over the rest of the city. Except for patrols of the Watch and the accompanying apprentice wizards that maintain the light spells and the street lamps, the upper city is deserted at night. The nightlife of the Baldurian patriarchs is a private affair that continues indoors within their vast estates. Citadel Streets is a small and segregated district located on the north side of the upper city. The predominant feature of the district is the Grand Watch Citadel, a fortress that serves as the barracks and training grounds for the upper city police force known as the Watch. High Hall, also known as the Ducal Palace, is the Grand Keep of Baldur's Gate, located in the center of the Temples district of the upper city. Historically, it served as a military fortress, but by the 15th century, it's home to nearly all the city's governmental business. The Keep of High Hall is adorned with elegantly designed windows, grand spires, and gargoyles that took the place of siege weapons that sat upon the parapets in years past. The roof of the keep has been retrofitted to collect rainwater, which flows through the aqueducts designed by priests of Gond to contribute to the city's freshwater fountains. The outer wall of the keep surrounds a central courtyard, which holds a small public garden lined with benches and intersected by numerous walkways. The Grand Chamber of High Hall, used by the Parliament of Peers when they're in session, composes the first floor. The chamber can seat 300 individuals and is almost entirely full when the body is in session. Also within the hall are a dozen or so small meeting rooms, often used by the Parliament, along with the offices of the Council of Four and their respective courtrooms. The eastern wing of the ground floor of High Hall celebrates the city's history and pays tribute to both its former Grand Dukes and storied heroes. As a mausoleum, it serves as the final resting place for these great men and women. The museum features a grand statue of Baldur, along with several glass cases that house many of its holy relics. The original dungeons that serve High Hall see little use centuries later. They are expansive and unpleasant, damp halls under a vaulted ceiling supported by a series of dense columns. The lower city serves as the mercantile hub of Baldur's Gate, housing the city's docks, along with a great many businesses, inns, taverns, and temples. Trade and commerce are of paramount importance. The lower city is shaped like a crescent that surrounds the city's gray harbor. Built atop the sloping bluffs, the narrow cobblestone streets of the lower city twist around one another to form the region's city blocks. The buildings of the lower city are conjoined stone structures with common characteristics such as slate roofs and vibrantly painted shutters that are firmly secured in the evening hours. Most of the lower city is covered in a near continuous fog that rolls in from the Chionthar River. As a result, the stone streets are damp and slippery. Visibility is low, even during the daytime. The darkness and mist are abated to an extent by the number of oil and wick street lamps that dot many of the street corners, particularly those in the nicer neighborhoods. While crime is still an issue in the lower city, it is no longer the lawless cesspool that it had been for years, thanks to the watchful eyes of the Flaming Fist, although in the contemporary period, they are not held to the same moral standards as they were under their founder. The Gate of Baldur itself remains an iconic landmark to the residents of the lower city. Though humble in stature compared to those built later in the city's rise to greatness, it remains the only portal between the upper and lower city open to commoners. The neighborhood of Blackgate is the only one found north of Baldur's Gate proper. The neighborhood originated from the Black Dragon Gate, around which it grew. Often referred to as the upper lower city, Bloomridge is the wealthiest of the lower city's districts. It's home to successful merchants, moneylenders, and landowners, as well as the occasional inheritors or children of manor-born residents. The Grey Harbor spans all 6 districts of the Gate's lower city, forming a crescent along the bottom of the city's distinct sloping bluffs. The city and its harbor are inset with a natural bay that forms along the northern shore of the river Chianthar, upstream from the Sea of Swords. The harbor is massive in size and scope, featuring over a dozen piers and an astounding 76 mechanical cranes that are used to load and unload cargoes onto and from ships. These enormous devices were originally designed by the Baldurian clergy of Gond in the High House of Wonders. A notable feature of the harbor is a massive chain extending out from the sea tower of Balduron. Under normal circumstances, this chain rests along the riverbed before being tethered to a post in the easternmost dock of Brampton. However, when necessary, a rotating device can be manned and the chain can be raised taut, allowing no ships larger than a dinghy to pass into the port. The Grey Harbor is bustling with activity at all hours, day and night, but especially busy in the hours before dawn. Due to the city's receptive nature and business-first mentality, a great variety of cargo passes through the docks of Grey Harbor. Even pirates and smugglers can find a home for their ship, even if only for a short while. There are several landmarks within the Grey Harbor. The counting house is one of the centers of trade and mercantilism within the city and Sword Coast at large. The harbor master's office, somewhat resembling a fortress, secures all the shop manifests and fees that are paid to the city related to sea trade or docking. The naval keep of the Flaming Fist at the Grey Harbor has enabled their expeditions to Cholt. The Water Queen's house, an indispensable church, is located at the end of a long, broad pier. The outer city of Baldur's Gate is a near lawless, impoverished expanse located outside of the city walls. It's an unorganized collection of business owners, livestock handlers, refugees, and other undesirables who are relegated to the muddy streets and ramshackle structures beyond the districts of the lower city. The streets of the outer city are scattered across 3 entrances, namely the Cliff Gate, the Black Dragon, and the Basilisk Gates. The many huts, lean-tos, animal paddocks, and other makeshift structures continue down a portion of the coastway across the bridge of Worm's Crossing and the river Chianthar to the region's southernmost district. The majority of the outer city runs along the coastway as it curves around the foot of Dusthawk Hill. The outer city is messy and unorganized, with buildings arising without any forethought of form or function. Many of its structures were built from wood or thin branches that were wound together around stakes driven into the ground. The roads that weave between these makeshift structures twist and turn in a chaotic sprawl. It's noisy, filthy, and full of desperate people that it can be overwhelming to many who travel to visit the gate. The folks of the outer city are referred to as outsiders by the Baldurians who dwell within the city walls. Due to the high standards of cleanliness of the Baldurian patriarchs, the city maintains a strict law that prohibits anything larger than a peacock from entering the city's gates. All the stables, livestock pens, and abattoirs were consigned to a location within the outer city. As such, flocks of sheep, goats, cattle, and all manner of fowl were kept in enclosures or left to roam around unchecked. The outer city grew significantly during the spell plague, with magic and chaos, and therefore traditional ways of doing things, becoming more important and therefore profitable. The growth of Baldur's Gate kept the pace, and the only place it could grow was the outer city. Little Kalimshan is named after the country in southern Faerun, as they are the majority of the population in this district. A magical academy called the Lamp of Learning is located here. Rivington is the southernmost district of Baldur's Gate. It's the only region of the outer city located on the southern shore of the river Chianthar on the far side of Worm's Crossing. Stony Eyes is located just outside of the eastern region of the lower city, just beyond the Basilisk Gate. The neighborhood is home to a large community of half-orcs, many of whom work as porters. Tumbledown is located in the southeastern region of the lower city, just beyond Cliffgate. It's a dreary, foggy neighborhood that is believed to be haunted. Twin Songs is located on the northern side of the Worm's Crossing Bridge. It's an expansive collection of minor temples, shrines, and altars dedicated to nearly every deity, even those that are considered dark or malevolent. Whitkeep neighbors the districts of Norchapel and Sowsfoot, though the exact borders of each region are regularly debated. The neighborhood is home to a sizable community of gnomes, many of whom work as tinsmiths within the city. It's said that every faith in the world has a believer in Baldur's Gate. Not only are the most established faiths tolerated, but new ones arrive constantly, carried by travelers and proselytizers from far-flung lands. Baldur's Gate hosts many temples and shrines that serve the religious needs of its diverse citizenry. There are several temples of Helm located in various districts of Baldur's Gate. The Shrine of Suffering is dedicated to Ilmater, the god of endurance and martyrdom. There is a temple dedicated to Lathander, the god of dawn and renewal, and Ogma, the god of knowledge and invention. His temple is a place of learning. Also known as the Water Queen's House, the Temple of Umberlee, the goddess of the sea, remains a central deity to the seafarers of the city. The most impressive temple in Baldur's Gate is the Temple of Gondar, also known as the High House of Wonders. It's a grand temple dedicated to Gond, situated in the Temples district of the Upper City, adjacent to their museum. The High House of Wonders is an expansive series of workshops within which Gondar priests create a variety of experimental devices and machines for the Baldurian people. The temple is built out of white marble and features a number of columns that make it stand out among the surrounding architecture. Its great bronze doors appear as if they are floating above the ground and ring to signal every hour. Each wing of the High House is devoted to a specific type of craftsmanship or scholarly pursuit. Within its halls, the temple houses a number of grand items, including full-scale ships, siege weapons, and a collection of unique inventions. Many marvelous inventions are displayed in the halls of the House of Wonders, including gnomish mechanisms such as Baldric's brilliant blam blower and Gurn's great gnome flinger. Within the Temple of the Gondsman, they engage in all manner of so-called holy labor. They design new machinery, improve old designs, and manufacture the devices sold in the Hall of Wonders. The temple also produces bars of heavy, untempered bronze. Like other temples in the city, they offer healing and magical services, though often a bit begrudgingly. Priests do leave the temple to carry out repairs on structures, mechanical devices, waterways, or the wheel-powered cranes at the docks. Baldur's Gate has complex relations with other cities and regions. It maintains active trade with coastal cities like Waterdeep and Neverwinter to the north, while also contending with the aggressive mercantile nation of Am to the south. Am seeks to dominate trade on the Sea of Swords and views Baldur's Gate as a growing threat. To bolster its defense and assert its influence, Baldur's Gate joined the Lord's Alliance, a coalition of independent cities that includes Neverwinter and Waterdeep. This alliance formed largely due to disputes with Amn, and it ensures mutual defense among all members. This fact irritates Amn, as it's not prepared to challenge the full might of the alliance. To the east, nations such as Eltergard and Cormyr view Baldur's Gate with suspicion, often considering it a lawless haven that might someday require intervention. These nations particularly disapprove of Baldur's Gate's broad religious tolerance, which contrasts with more lawful and orderly societies. Travelers heading to Candlekeep often pass through Baldur's Gate, hoping to find rare books in the city's markets to gain entry into the library fortress. Consequently, Baldur's Gate has developed a small but thriving trade in rare books, with several merchants known to purchase valuable books without question, selling them at a high markup. This dynamic also leads to adventurers being hired for protection by those carrying valuable tomes to Candlekeep or seeking such books within dangerous ruins or dungeons. Port Nyanzaru, located in the northern coast of Cholt, enjoys a respectful and mutually beneficial trade relationship with Baldur's Gate, as both cities harbor a mutual dislike for Amn. Aside from its dealings with Port Nyanzaru, the city also maintains its own interests in Cholt through Fort Beluarian. This fort serves as a base for Baldur's Gate, the Flaming Fist, and the various patriarch families who are interested in Cholt, overseeing exploration and exploitation in the region while serving as a departure point for smuggling treasures back to the Sword Coast. The Guild in Baldur's Gate is a sprawling criminal organization that unifies a diverse array of underworld figures, including, but not limited to, cut purses, loan sharks, killers, thugs, con artists, grave robbers, and cat burglars. This extensive network operates under the tacit tolerance, if not outright oversight, of city officials and law enforcement, managing to keep its activities sufficiently discreet to avoid disrupting the daily life of the city too egregiously. Each neighborhood within Baldur's Gate falls under the dominion of one or more kingpins, crime bosses who oversee operations and report up the chain to the head of the guild. These kingpins fashion themselves as a cut above the average criminal, often adopting distinctive nicknames and dressing in conspicuously opulent attire that sets them apart. In the 15th century, Nine Fingers Keen currently leads the guild. Known for her pragmatic approach to crime and leadership, she eschews ostentation in favor of blending in, making her difficult to identify by her enemies. Despite her unremarkable appearance, Keen is a formidable leader, feared and respected in equal measure for her capability to exact revenge profitably and strategically when necessary. Lately, however, she's grown intolerant of any threats to the guild's dominance within the city, marking a shift towards eliminating all competition, including vigilantes and rival criminal outfits that could disrupt their operations. The guild's influence extends across all districts of Baldur's Gate, but is felt most acutely in the lower city, where its members engage in a variety of crimes, from burglary to protection schemes, capitalizing on the relative wealth of this area compared to the destitute outer city. The guild's activities even reach far into the upper city, engaging in more sophisticated crimes like burglary, extortion, blackmail, and con games, often involving the city's elite in their schemes. Baldur's Gate is currently overrun by refugees from a city that has mysteriously vanished nearby called El Turil. This has put a strain on the city's resources and infrastructure. The dead three cultists in Baldur's Gate are followers of the evil gods Bane, Baal, and Myrkul. The city has closed its outer gate to protect against this refugee threat, effectively trapping its citizens inside. Amidst this chaos, the city's populace is being preyed upon by these cultists of the dead three. As the Flaming Fist has drawn their attention elsewhere and suffered from corruption, these cultists have grown bold in their activities, moving rather freely through the city. Bane, the god of tyranny, Baal, the god of murder, and Myrkul, the god of death, were once adventurers who ascended to godhood and sought to rule over Faerun and its gods, although their plan to seize the Tablets of Fate from the overgod Ao failed, resulting in their deaths during the time of troubles. Various contingency plans, however, have allowed them to be reborn as quasi-divine beings. Despite being less powerful than before, they remain a significant malevolent force on Faerun. Bane's followers are known for their tyranny and aim to rule through fear, coercion, and the forceful application of the law. They're described as warriors who seek to rule with an iron fist, employing intimidation and cruelty to achieve their goals. Myrkul, on the other hand, attracts those interested in the dead or seeking to command the undead, making his base of power near the Undercity in the ancient chambers carved into Dusthawk Hill. The cultists of the Dead Three conduct their meetings in a room adorned with statues representing each god, planning their attacks against the city. These meetings can be contentious, but Baal and Myrkul followers typically yield to the more strategically minded followers of Bane. Despite their sinister reputation and the fear they instill in the city's populace, their actual influence and numbers so far remain relatively small. The city of Baldur's Gate now stands on the verge of being drawn into schemes of extraplanar entities. Yet Baldur's Gate is a city where men have risen from humble beginnings to deeds that have become legendary across Toril. While the Patriarchs cower behind their iconic gate, the city can count on the multitudes across the continent who have come and paid but a few silver to join in its prosperity as citizens and protect it from the ravages of the cosmic wars that rage across the Forgotten Realms.